The arena of Shamith, morning sky above the arena, was pale and cold. Thousands of watchers sat in the tall stone seats, their voices rising in cruel excitement. Banners waved in the wind, each marked with the symbol of the king, a black crown over a red sun. In the center of the arena, a single human stood alone. His wrists were bound in front of him by a metal chain. Dirt covered his face, but his green eyes were clear and calm. His name was Darius. A horn sounded from the highest balcony. The king himself stood there, dressed in long silver robes. His face was hidden behind a golden mask shaped like a snarling beast. "Bring out the champion," the king commanded in a voice that echoed through the stone walls. A huge iron door opened on the other side of the arena. Footsteps boomed across the sand. Darius lifted his head to see her. She was taller than any warrior he had ever faced. Dark blue armor covered her body from neck to boots. Her helmet was shaped like the head of a hunting bird. Sharp and cold. The watchers began to chant her name. Calera, Calera, Calera. Darius felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him, but he did not look away from her. Calera walked to the center of the arena. Her steps were slow and steady. She held a long spear in one hand. The tip gleamed silver in the early light. When she stopped in front of Darius, the king raised a hand. "Warrior," the king called. "You know your orders." Calera turned her helmet slightly, just enough to show she was listening. "Humiliate this creature," the king said. "Break his spirit. Let all see how worthless he is." The watchers cheered. Some laughed. Darius did not move. Calera stood silent. For a moment, Darius thought he saw her hand tighten on the spear. "Do you understand?" the king demanded. "Yes," Calera said in a low voice. "Begin," the king ordered. Calera stepped closer. She lifted her spear and touched the point to Darius's chest, pressing just enough that he could feel the sharpness. "Kneel," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but he thought he heard something behind it, something tired. "No," Darius said. Gasps rose from the watchers. Calera did not lower her spear. "If you do not kneel," she said, "I must strike you down." Darius lifted his eyes to hers, though he could not see her face behind the helmet. "Then do it," he said. "But I will not kneel." The watchers roared in anger and surprise. Calera stayed still. Her spear did not move that high above. The king leaned forward. "Perhaps you did not hear," he called. "Break him." Darius felt the spear press harder against his chest. He took a slow breath, never looking away. "You do not have to do this," he said softly so only she could hear. "I have no choice," Calera replied. "Everyone has a choice." Darius said. Her helmet tilted, as if she were studying him. "You do not fear me?" she asked. "No," he said. The watchers were chanting now, their voices mixing into a harsh wave of sound. "Break him, break him, break him." Calera pulled her spear back. For a moment, Darius thought she might refuse the king's command, but then she turned and walked to a rack of weapons standing near the edge of the arena. She set her spear aside and picked up a training staff instead of a long rod of smooth wood. When she returned, her steps were slower. "I will not kill you," she said in that same quiet voice. "Then what will you do?" Darius asked. She lifted the staff. "I will show them you are not weak," she whispered. Before he could answer, she swung the staff in a wide arc. The watcher screamed, thinking she meant to strike him down. But at the last second, she stopped the staff an inch from his cheek. The silence that followed was so complete Darius could hear his own heartbeat. Calera turned her helmet toward the king's balcony. "He does not kneel," she said, her voice echoing across the arena. The king rose to his feet, his golden mask shining in the light. "Then break him," the king thundered. Darius felt a cold calm fill him. "You have to try," he said softly to Calera. Her hands tightened on the staff, and in that moment, he knew she did not want to do this. The challenge accepted. Calera stood with the wooden staff raised between them. Her armor glinted in the pale morning light. The watchers were silent. Thousands of eyes locked on her and Darius. For a long moment, no one moved. Darius looked up at her, his green eyes steady. He felt the weight of the king's gaze pressing down from the balcony, but he would not look away from Calera. "Do it," the king's voice thundered. "Break him." Calera's hands tightened on the staff. Darius thought he saw her shoulders tremble, but it was only for a second. She took a slow step closer. "Why do you stand so calmly?" she asked in a low voice. "Because I have nothing left to fear," Darius said. Her helmet tilted. "They will cheer if I hurt you. Let them," he said. Her breath caught. so soft only he could hear it. The watchers began to chant again, louder this time. Break him, break him, break him. Clara raised the staff above her head. Darius braced his feet in the sand, refusing to flinch. The staff came down fast, but at the last moment, she shifted her grip and struck his chains instead of his body. The metal links cracked. A sharp ring echoed across the arena. Gasps rose from the crowd. The chains fell from Darius's wrists. He looked down at them in surprise, then back up at Clara. Why? He whispered. Because I will not chain you, she said softly. Up on the balcony, the king leaned forward. His golden mask tilted. What are you doing? He demanded. Clara did not answer. Instead, she turned and tossed the broken chain at the king's feet. He is free to fight, she called. A roar of confusion swept through the watchers. So be it, the king shouted. Let him fight before he dies. A guard hurried to the side of the arena and picked up a wooden practice staff. He threw it across the sand toward Darius. Darius bent to pick it up. The smooth wood felt cool in his hands. He turned to face Clara again. I will not strike you if you will not strike me, he said. They will not accept that, she said. Then let them see us stand, Darius said. Her hands lowered a little. You are either the bravest man I have met, she whispered, or the most foolish. Maybe both, he said. The crowd began to boo. Angry shouts rose from every side. The king lifted one hand to silence them. Then if you will not strike him, the king said coldly, I will make you. He gestured, and more guards appeared at the edge of the arena. They carried long poles tipped with crackling energy. If you refuse to fight, the king said, you will both be punished. Clara lifted her staff again. Darius watched her closely. You do not have to do this, he said quietly. I do, she whispered. She lunged forward, swinging her staff at his side. But this time, Darius was ready. He blocked the blow with a clean motion, the wood of their staffs colliding with a hollow crack. The watchers gasped again. No one had ever seen anyone block Clara's strikes. She stepped back, her breath quickening. Darius did not press forward. He waited. Fight me, she said, her voice shaking. I am fighting, he said, but not in the way they want. Her helmet turned slightly, as if she were looking up at the king. If I do not beat you, he will kill us both, she whispered. Then we stand together, Darius said. Her staff lowered. Her shoulders sagged under the weight of the armor. Why do you do this? She asked. Because I will not be part of his games, Darius said. And neither should you. The king's voice rose again. Furious. Enough, he roared. Break him now, or you will die in disgrace. Clara looked down at her hands. For a moment, Darius thought she would obey. But then she turned to face the king fully. I will not, she called, her voice clear and strong. The watchers fell silent. Darius felt his heart beat hard in his chest. Then die, the king said coldly. The guard stepped forward, energy weapons raised. Darius lifted his staff in defense. And beside him, Clara raised hers too. For the first time, they stood as equals. The first strike guards marched into the arena with their weapons crackling blue. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks. The watchers had gone quiet, holding their breath. Darius felt the air change. It was the moment when everyone expected him to break, to kneel, to beg for mercy. He did none of those things. He lifted his staff higher. Beside him, Clara shifted her feet, her spear now gripped tight in her hand. Stand behind me, she said in a low voice. No, Darius said. We stand together. Her helmet tilted. Even though he could not see her face, he felt her watching him. Then be ready, she whispered. The first guard lunged forward, swinging his energy weapon. Clara met him in a blur of motion. Her spear slammed against the weapon, knocking it wide. Darius stepped past her before she could stop him. He struck the guard's knee with the end of his staff. There was a sharp crack, and the guard fell. Gasps rose from the watchers. Another guard rushed in. Clara moved to block his strike, but he shifted and swung at Darius's head. Darius ducked under the blow and brought his staff up hard against the guard's chest. The man staggered back, coughing. The two guards regrouped, circling them slowly. We can't hold them all, Clara said between breaths. Maybe not, Darius said, but we can show them we won't be broken. Her head turned toward him. For a second, the noise of the arena faded. I was taught never to question orders, she said. And now, he asked. Now I am questioning everything, she whispered. The crowd began to chant again. This time it was not only anger. There was confusion, even curiosity. Fight, fight, fight. The king rose from his throne. His golden mask shone in the pale light. Enough of this shame, he bellowed. The guards advanced together, their weapons raised. Clattered and Darius stood back to back. When I move, she said softly. Step with me. I trust you, Darius said. Her breath caught, just for a moment. The first guard struck. Clattered blocked high. Darius stepped forward, sweeping his staff low. The second guard stumbled as Darius's staff hooked his ankle. Clattered moved fast. She spun and brought the butt of her spear down on the guard's shoulder. Armor cracked with a loud, echoing snap. The crowd roared in shock. The second guard tried to recover, but Darius did not give him time. He drove his staff into the gap between the guard's armor plates. The guard dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. Stand down, Clattered ordered, her voice ringing clear. The guards hesitated, looking up at the king. The king clenched his fist. Cowards, he spat. I will show you how a true warrior destroys an enemy. He raised one hand. From the far side of the arena, a tall figure walked forward. She wore black armor marked with the king's crest. A new champion. Clattered stiffened. Who is that? Darius asked. Captain Mara, Clattered whispered. She trained me. The woman stopped a few paces away. Her voice was cold and flat. You disappoint me, she said to Clattered. I will not break him. Clattered said, Then I will break you, Mara replied. She drew a long black sword from her back. Its blade shimmered with dark energy. Darius tightened his grip on the staff. If we fight her, we fight together, he said. She is stronger than both of us, Clattered said. Then we will be stronger together, he said. She turned her helmet toward him. You truly are a fool, she whispered. So you've said, he replied. For the first time, he thought he heard a trace of a smile in her voice. Mara lunged without warning, her sword arched toward Clattered's chest. Clattered moved to block, but the force of the strike was too strong. The blade smashed into her armor at the shoulder. The watcher screamed as her armor cracked wide open, shards falling to the sand. Clattered staggered, her breath ragged. Darius caught her before she fell. Your armor, he began. It doesn't matter, she gasped. She turned to face Mara again, her broken armor gleaming in the light. You can shatter my armor, she said in a voice that trembled, but you will not shatter my will. And in that moment, Darius knew she had chosen her side. Asterisk, the unbroken spirit arena was silent except for the wind. Dust floated through the air, shining in the pale morning light. Clattered stood with her head high, even as her armor hung broken. From her shoulder, blood slid down her arm, bright against the dark plates. Darius felt something tighten in his chest. He stepped beside her and lifted his staff. Mara tilted her black sword, studying them both. You were always soft, Mara said coldly. You never deserved to wear the king's crest. Then take it from me, Clattered said, her voice low but steady. I will, Mara said. She took a step forward. The watchers leaned forward, waiting to see Clattered fall, but Clattered did not step back. She shifted her broken spear into her left hand. She raised her chin. You taught me to fight, Clattered said, but you never taught me why. Mara paused, her eyes narrowing. Because there is no why, Mara said, only orders. Then I have no use for your lessons, Clattered said. The king's voice rang out, sharp as a blade. Kill them both, he commanded. Mara did not look away from Clattered. This is your last chance, she said. Kneel, and I will spare you. Clattered's breath shook, but her hands did not lower. No, she whispered. Darius lifted his staff higher. Then you will die, Mara said. She lunged, faster than before, but Clattered was ready. She met Mara's sword with her broken spear, the weapons crashing together with a crack like thunder. Mara struck again. Clattered blocked high. The force drove her to one knee, but she did not drop her weapon. Darius moved to her side, his staff slamming into Mara's leg. Mara hissed in pain, but did not fall. Stand, Darius said to Clattered, his voice firm. Clattered drew in a ragged breath. She stood. The watchers were no longer chanting. Many sat frozen, their mouths open in shock. No prisoner had ever stood this long. No champion had ever hesitated. The king's voice was colder now. Finish them, he snarled. Mara raised her sword again, but this time, Clattered did not wait. She swung her spear low, striking Mara's knee. Mara staggered. Darius did not pause. He stepped in and slammed the end of his staff into the crack in Mara's armor. The blade slipped from Mara's hands. It clattered to the sand. Mara fell to her knees, gasping. For a moment, no one moved. Clattered stood over her former teacher, her breath ragged. "You taught me to obey," Clattered said softly, "but he taught me something better." She turned her head, her blue eyes meeting Darius's. "He taught me to stand." Darius felt something swell in his chest. He lifted his staff in quiet salute. Clattered looked back at Mara. Double quotes, "I will not kill you," she said. Mara raised her head, her eyes burning. "Then you are weak," she spat. "No," Clattered whispered. "I am free." The king slammed his hand on the balcony rail. "Guards!" he screamed, and dozens of soldiers rushed toward the arena. Weapons hummed with deadly power. Darius turned to Clattered. "We can't fight them all," he said. "Then we run," Clattered said. She dropped her broken spear and held out her hand to him. Without hesitation, he took it. They turned together and ran toward the archway at the far end of the arena. The watchers erupted into shouts, some angry, some cheering. As they reached the shadows of the archway, Darius looked back. He saw Mara still on her knees, staring after them. He saw the king, his golden mask frozen in fury. And he knew this was the moment that changed everything. The two of them vanished into the darkness beyond the arena. And for the first time, Clattered felt no shame in her heart. She felt pride because she had chosen her own path. The confession passage behind the arena was dark and cold. The stone walls were rough under Darius's hands. As he and Clattered moved fast through the narrow corridor, their steps echoed in the emptiness. Somewhere far behind, the king's guards shouted orders. Clattered held her broken shoulder as she ran. She was bleeding, but she did not slow down. "We can't keep running forever," Darius said, breathing hard. "No," she agreed, her voice low, "but we can find a way out." They turned a corner and slipped through a half-open door. Inside was a storage chamber filled with old weapons and crates. Clattered leaned against the wall, her chest rising and falling. "Let me see your wound," Darius said. "No," she said. Quickly, "You're hurt," he insisted. "I'd have been hurt before," she whispered. He stepped closer. "But you don't have to be alone this time." Her eyes lifted to his. Behind the helmet, he could not see her expression, but he heard something in her voice that was softer than before. "Why do you care?" she asked. "Because," Darius said, "someone should." She lowered her head. Slowly, she reached up and unlatched her helmet. It fell away with a soft click. Darius looked into her face, pale skin, marked with thin scars, eyes bright blue and tired. He thought she was the most beautiful person he had ever seen. She looked away quickly. "This is what I am," she said quietly. "A weapon, a servant to a king I hate." "No," Darius said. "You are more than that." She shook her head. "You don't know what I have done," she whispered. "Then tell me," he said. She took a slow breath. "I was born in the citadel," she began. "The king's soldiers took me when I was a child. They trained me to fight, to obey, to never question." Her voice trembled. "I became his champion," she said. "I thought it was honor. I thought it was my purpose." She lifted her eyes to his. "But every time I won, I felt emptier," she whispered. "Every time I broke someone, I lost a piece of myself." Darius listened without interrupting. "When he ordered me to humiliate you," she continued, "I felt something break inside me. I could not do it. I could not be his tool anymore." Her hands curled into fists. "I thought if I refused, I would die," she said. "But when you stood beside me, I felt." She hesitated, searching for the word. "Free," she said finally. Darius stepped closer. He lifted his hand, hesitating. She did not pull away when he touched her cheek. "You are free," he said softly. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered. "Not yet." "Then let's finish it together," Darius said. Her blue eyes met his. "You would stay with me?" she asked. "Always," he said. They stood in silence. For a moment, there was no king, no watchers, no war. Only the people who had chosen to stand side by side. Clattered lifted her hand and touched his. "I'd have never known kindness," she said softly. "Then it's time you did," Darius replied. A loud clang echoed from the corridor. Voices drew closer. Clattered's face hardened. "We have to move," she said. "Where?" Darius asked. "There is a hidden tunnel under the citadel," she said. "It leads to the mountains." "How do we Reach it. She turned her head, listening to the footsteps coming nearer. We fight our way through, she said. He nodded. Double quotes together. He said again. She looked at him, her eyes bright. Together, she whispered. And in that word, he heard a promise. Stronger than any armor. Asterisk. They escaped together. The door to the storage chamber shook as guards pounded against it. From the other side, Clara picked up a long metal rod, her hand steady even though her shoulder still bled. Darius gripped his wooden staff tighter. How many are out there? He asked. Enough to kill us. Clara said calmly. Then we can't stay, he said. She nodded. When they break the door, she said, we move fast. We don't stop. He looked into her bright blue eyes. I trust you, he said. Her breath caught for just a moment. Then don't let go of me, she whispered. The door crashed open with a splintering crack. 8 dozen guards in black armor charged into the room. Their energy weapons glowed bright blue, ready to strike. Clara moved first. She slammed her rod into the closest guard's helmet, knocking him backward into 2 others. Darius stepped in front of her and swung his staff low, sweeping another guard off his feet. Go! Clara shouted. They ran through the gap she had made, sprinting into the dim corridor beyond. Shouts rose behind them. Weapons crackled. Clara led the way, her boots pounding against the cold stone. She turned sharply and kicked open a narrow door hidden behind a broken pillar. And here, she called. Darius followed without question. The passage beyond was tight and dark, lit only by thin lines of light that spilled through cracks in the ceiling. Where does this go? Darius asked, his voice low. To the lower halls, Clara said. If we reach the old tunnels, we can escape to the mountains. He heard pain in her voice. Your shoulder, he said. You're bleeding too much. It doesn't matter, she said, her breath ragged. We must keep moving. He touched her arm. It matters to me, he said. She looked at him in surprise, her eyes softening. Thank you, she whispered. They ran until the passage opened into a wide chamber with a cracked stone floor. Tall columns rose in the darkness above them. Clara stopped, breathing hard. This is the old hall, she said. The hidden door is there. She pointed to a wall covered in carvings. Darius followed her, but before they reached it, more guards poured into the chamber from behind them. Clara turned. Her rod lifted. I will hold them, she said. You open the door. No, Darius said. We stand together. She looked at him, her face pale. You will die, she whispered. Then I will die beside you, he said. Her lips parted, as if she wanted to argue. But instead, she nodded. Double quotes. That we stand together, she said. The guards closed in, weapons raised. Clara moved first, striking with precise, graceful force. Every movement was controlled. Even as her injured arm slowed, her Darius fought at her side, his staff blocking blows meant for her. One guard swung low. Darius stepped in front of Clara, taking the hit on his shoulder. Pain shot through him, but he did not fall. Clara turned to him, her eyes wide. You fool, she said, her voice shaking. You called me that before, he gasped. She let out a small, broken laugh. I think you were proud of it, she whispered. Maybe, he said. The last guard fell to the floor with a heavy thud. Silence filled the hall. Clara dropped her rod. She leaned against the wall, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Darius reached for her, steadying her with one arm. The door, she said weakly. We have to open it. He turned and pressed his hand to the carved panel she had shown him. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the stone shifted. A thin line of light appeared as the hidden door slowly opened. Cold night air rushed in, carrying the scent of mountains and freedom. Clara looked at the opening, her eyes shining. It's real, she whispered. Yes, Darius said softly. She looked at him, her voice trembling. Will you stay with me? She asked. Always? He said. Together, they stepped into the darkness beyond the wall, leaving the arena, the king, and all the chains behind them. The new beginning's hidden tunnel led them far under the citadel. Cold stone pressed in on both sides, and their footsteps echoed in the dark. Clara's breath was slow and labored. She leaned on Darius when her legs trembled every few steps. He felt her weight sag against him, but she never stopped moving. We are almost free, she whispered. We are free already, Darius said softly. She turned her head, her blue eyes glinting in the shadows. Why do you say that? She asked. Because you chose this, he said. You chose yourself. She was quiet for a moment, as if she were testing the truth of his words. I never thought I could, she said at last. Now you know. Darius said. The tunnel climbed upward. Finally, they reached a narrow crack where pale moonlight spilled through. Clara pushed her hand against the gap. The old stone shifted. Cold night air rushed in. Smelling of pine and clean earth. Clara stepped out first. Darius followed her into the open. They stood on a high ledge overlooking dark hills and distant mountains. A wide sky full of stars stretched above them. Clara lifted her face to the sky, her eyes shining. I have never seen the stars without bars, she whispered. He looked at her, feeling something warm in his chest. They are brighter when you are free, he said. She turned to face him. Her armor was cracked and stained. Her hair fell in loose strands across her cheeks. She looked nothing like a champion of the king. She looked stronger. What happens now? She asked softly. Whatever you choose, Darius said. And if I do not know what to choose? She asked. Then we find the answer together. He said. She looked down. I am afraid. She whispered. So am I. He said. Her eyes lifted to his again. Then at least we are afraid together, she said. She reached up and unfastened the last piece of her armor. It fell to the ground with a dull thud. This was my prison, she said quietly. He nodded. She took a slow breath. Will you help me bury it? She asked. Yes, he said. Together they carried the pieces to the edge of the ledge. Clara set them down in a small hollow in the rocks. I am done with this life, she whispered. She looked at him, her voice trembling. And if I am no longer a weapon, what am I? She asked. He stepped close. You are Clara, he said gently. That is enough. She closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. No one has ever called me enough, she whispered. Then I will say it as many times as you need, he said. Her hand lifted to touch his cheek. Why did you see me? She asked. He did not have to think. Because I looked past your armor, he said. I saw your heart. Her breath caught. And what did you see there? She whispered. He smiled. Courage, he said, and kindness. She let out a small, shaky laugh. You are a strange human, she whispered. And you are the bravest person I have ever known, he said. They stood together in the cold wind, the stars above them. Clara took his hand. I do not know what happens next, she said. We start again, he said. She turned to look at the mountains rising in the distance. Then let us go, she said. Side by side. They stepped into the darkness toward a place where no one could ever order them to bow again, toward a life where she could choose who she would become, and with each step, the heavy chains of her old life fell further behind. She was no longer the king's weapon. She was Clara. She was free. That night, under a sky full of stars, she finally understood that true strength was never in her armor, it was always in her heart.